Hey party people, I just want to do a quick one about the differences between Flux Schnell and Flux Dev. So Flux is the new image generation model from Black Forest Labs, created by the original authors of Stable Diffusion, who now have their own company. And I've been playing around with this model since it came out last week. So on the left here, we have outputs from the Flux Schnell model, which is the fastest model. And on the right, we have outputs from Flux Dev, which is supposedly creates higher quality outputs. So what surprised me here was that I thought that I would be doing a little bit of prototyping on the Schnell model, and I was starting to see some outputs that I liked for this project that I'm working on with my partner. And then I thought, okay, some of these are good, but they're kind of blurry. The resolution is not quite right. So my expectation was, okay, next thing we do is we put the same prompt into the dev model, and we're going to start seeing higher output or higher quality images. But what I noticed is that the aesthetic is entirely different between the two models, at least for the prompts that I was using here. So for the dev output, everything looks a bit more cartoonish. So let's take a look at the prompt to sort of understand what the differences are here. So I have this prompt.txt, and there's some things here that surprised me. So the prompt requests a 2-color etching in the style of a 19th century folklore illustration, and the image should be as if it would appear on a printed children's book. So when I first saw these outputs from Schnell, they seemed, well, some of them seem reminiscent of something that you would see printed in a book, whereas in the dev outputs, they're much more brightly colored and cartoonish and kind of modern. So I thought, okay, let's find out what the actual differences are between these two models, at least according to documentation out there. So I asked Claude to read the Black Forest Labs webpage for me. And I was surprised to find out that Claude doesn't actually support URLs yet. So you can't just throw a web page at it and start asking it questions. So I went into Cursor, which is a sort of a fork of Visual Studio Code that has language model capabilities built into it. So I can just open up a Cursor chat and say, read these pages. What's the difference between these two? And so I gave it the Replicate blog post announcing the new models, the new Flux models, and the Black Forest Labs homepage. And it did a pretty good job of summarizing the differences here. It doesn't really indicate, though, that there is sort of a huge aesthetic difference between them. So I guess what I was kind of expecting is, like I said, prototype, iterate quickly with the Schnell model, and then switch to dev for the higher quality outputs. But that was not the case, at least just knowing that there's so much variation between the style of the outputs. So just a little warning, as you're working on this stuff, just try out different models because you might get entirely different results. So what I ended up doing for my project here was I found one of these outputs that I liked from the lower res Schnell model, and then I went to replicate.com/explore, and we have these sort of task-based collections here, and I knew that I wanted to upscale images. And we have this sort of editorial content here that describes what we think might be our recommendations, like staff picks. Unfortunately, this is a little bit out of date because I actually went to try out this magic image refiner, and the model's cold, which means if I try to run it, it's going to take a while to boot up. So I decided instead to just go for the model that has the highest number of runs, because that's sometimes a pretty good proxy for knowing whether or not it's popular. So I used real ESRGAN, popped it open, it's warm, and then I took my image from the Schnell model, put it into the ESRGAN model, changed the scale factor to 4, and the results came out pretty good. So that could be a good recipe for you if you're trying to create high quality new images, is to combine FLUX Schnell with an upscaler model. I hope this is helpful. Thank you for watching, and happy hacking. I'm going to find the stop button. There it is. Found it. Bye.